Next, we head to the Illinois Library Association's annual conference from Springfield and talk with Jeanne Roppolo, author of Grandma Goes to Antarctica. This book in the Grandma Goes to children's series recounts Roppolo's adventures when she was stationed in Antarctica for 5 months as a contract worker for the National Science Foundation. This runs about 12 minutes.
Jeanne Roppolo, thanks for joining us on the Illinois Channel as we are here at the Illinois Library Association annual conference in Springfield. And you wrote a book called Grandma Goes to Antarctica. Tell us a little bit about the book and how you came to write it.
Well, I just went down there for an adventure because it was suggested to me by a scientist. Well, why don't you go to Antarctica? And I said, I didn't know anything about Antarctica. So I said, oh, okay, not realizing how difficult it would be to actually get a job down there. But I went, got the job. That's going to be in my memoir that's out in November. Had to do the plug. And so I went down there thinking I'm just here for this great adventure, living and working at McMurdo Station for 5 months. And then when I was heading back to the real world, a friend of mine who is a published author said, well, why don't you write a children's book? And I said, I could do that, not knowing what that entailed. And lo and behold, I was set on another path. And it has to be called Grandma Goes To, my series, because nobody believed my grandchildren when they said their grandmother was in Antarctica.
And otherwise known as the South Pole, for those who don't know their geography.
Yes.
So you went to the South Pole, and what year was that?
2011, 2012, their summer season, our winter.
And what time of the year was that you went down?
September through February.
September through February. What was the experience like?
I loved it and I hated it all at the same time.
And what did you both love and hate about it?
The best thing was the people. The most eccentric, intelligent, fun-loving, unique, eccentric people on the planet live and work at McMurdo Station, Antarctica, and I felt like I'd found my people.
And we should say you actually had come out of just a long marriage, right? And
yes.
I mean, not it was somewhat, as you've already said, somewhat happenstance that you went to Antarctica. Yes. But a lot of times people in different walks of life or whatever, they lose their job, they get divorced, something happens, and they're living with kind of a lot of emotional angst, you might say. Mm-hmm. How did going to Antarctica, what did that do for you as you came out of a 40-year marriage?
Antarctica changed my life, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. They tell me my Antarctica adult version story is the classic hero's journey. I was broken when I got there, and I came back the old me.
So you felt broken when you got there?
I was, yeah.
Maybe you didn't did you recognize you were broken?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I was broken. I was broken, and these people that I lived and worked with, until this book comes out, they have no idea what they've done.
They kind of slapped you out of it, huh?
They just gave so much to me. I cry when I think about it.
And to what extent did it go? I mean, you literally went to the edge of the world. To what extent did that change your life perspective, just about how we sit on this one part of the planet, and you tend to project and think that's the whole world, but then when you go, I guess, to something as extreme as the South Pole, it kind of opens your eyes to what a big world is out there, huh?
Well, it didn't feel like I had gone to the ends of the earth. When I went to that private island in the South Pacific, that felt like the end of the earth. Truly, Antarctica felt like we were astronauts out to colonize a new planet. I mean, seriously.
As if you had left all the people behind.
Yes, and they call this the real world, and that is this artificial community, and the customs, the culture. It was truly like going to another planet.
You write that the residence of McMurdo, which is where you stayed, and I believe, is that run by the U.S. Navy, is it?
It used to be a Navy base. Now it's National Science Foundation.
National Science Foundation. You say the residents of McMurdo have their own church and library. There's a small store where you can purchase souvenirs, clothes, toiletries, etc.
Yeah.
On clear days, you can walk around the whole town or even ride a bicycle. Shuttle drivers will take you out to the runway. What were the temperatures like? And again, you were there during the summer, but on the other hand, it's the South Pole. So what were the temperatures extremes while you were there?
The day I arrived, and we traveled on a C-17 military cargo plane, you have on all your ECW gear, extreme cold weather gear.
Extreme cold weather gear, okay.
That the National Science Foundation gives to you. So you're all bundled up like a kid in a snowsuit. You can hardly walk down the steps, and you suck in that first breath of this unbelievably frigid air. Now, we're from Chicago. We know cold.
You know cold in Chicago, but this was colder.
And you went, oh my God, what have I done? And there's no way out other than that military plane. There's no trains, there's no buses, there's no car. There's not even a commercial jet to take you out of there. That's the only way home.
So you're kind of stuck for, what is it, about 5 months or so?
5 months, and you're like,
so
oh
what
my
were the
God.
temperatures, though?
So that was a negative 38.
38 below zero.
Yeah. And the warmest it got was 38 above.
38 above.
It was balmy.
Well, it probably did feel, I mean,
It
like
did.
a heat
It
wave.
really
Huh?
did,
Did
yeah.
you actually go out like in a t-shirt or
Never.
something? No.
No.
You were telling, so what, inside, how were the temperatures inside? And did you generally always stay inside a building, or did you go out?
Oh, no. No, my job took me to all different buildings, so you have to put on your gear, run from building to building, 9 times a day on and off with the parka. My dorm building, I shared a room with 5 other ladies, and it was so cold. It was only 55 degrees in my room, so I slept with Big Red, which is what we call the parka.
So you slept with a parka on in bed?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, at 55 degrees, you
Yeah, I was
could die
freezing.
from hypothermia.
I
right?
was freezing.
Were there like storms, or did you have to go out in the building where there were storms, or did you not go out if there was a storm?
Okay, they have condition 1, 2, and 3. 3 is like it's really cold out and it's fine. Condition 2 is when you have a hard time seeing across, like to that wall over there.
Which would be maybe 20 yards.
Yeah, and that's happened. And then a condition 1 is you can't see the hand in front of your face. You are not allowed out of any of the buildings because you can have hypothermia, frostbite, and all that instantly.
Instantly, and you'd obviously be lost. Did you have to like hold on to a rope as you went from building 1 to 2?
You're not allowed out. You're not.
No, I mean at any time. Was there
No.
a rope between the buildings or
No.
something? Okay.
No.
Because even in condition 2, you could have gotten lost.
You could manage.
All right. So you wrote Grandma Goes to Antarctica.
Yeah.
And who was the intended audience? What age group?
Well, I wrote it for children because my friend said, well, why don't you write a children's book? And I'm really surprised at how many adults love the story because they're like, you could learn about another place and you're not invested in a novel. You don't have to have all that time and energy. It's just a quick read. It's half photographs. And the photographs were just taken for me, because I was on this adventure. I didn't know this was going to end up in a book.
Well, and to the extent that you labeled it Grandma Goes to Antarctica, I presume you're a grandma, and B, that
Yes.
you wrote it for children.
Yes.
And speaking of the bad weather, you said Grandma needed to go from your dorm past a parking lot across
Yeah.
to building 155.
Yeah.
Well, once she got there, the wind was so strong she couldn't make it up the back stairs.
Right.
How were those conditions beside the cold?
The wind was so strong that it kept blowing me back into the street. And try as I might, I could not get up those stairs. And finally, I had to make my way around to a protected entrance. And I always say it's kind of like life, it thwarts your energy and you have to figure out how to survive.
So, before we close out, what would you say to people? What is the life lesson? A, that life's not over when at 56 or 55 or whatever, there's still a lot of adventure to be left. I'm sure you'd have that. But what would you say to people, both about your going off and changing the scenery, so to speak, in an extreme way, but also the experience about writing a book?
Well, first off, I tell everybody to be open to everyday moments, because you never know when an everyday moment's going to change your life, and that's how I got to Antarctica, because it was an everyday moment that changed my life. And then about writing a book, I've had a lot of jobs that I've created in my life, and this by far is the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
And why was it so hard? Because a lot of people think someday I'll write a book. Why was it so hard?
Emotionally, well, these are all my true stories. So someone once said writing a book is like taking a blunt knife. Maybe this might not be.
That's all right.
Taking a blunt knife and cutting out your heart and showing it to you on a platter. I read that and I was like, ooh, I can relate to that. And then I thought the hard part was writing the story, but people don't realize that everything that comes after the writing the story.
Is that the harder part, the publishing?
Oh,
No.
oh yeah, and the marketing, and yeah, it's a whole new world.
And if people want to reach out, I think you have a website. What's your website?
Yes. www.grandmagoes2.com.
GrandmaGoes2.com. And are you going to other books subsequently, or you have other go-to books?
I have Grandma Goes to the South Pacific, about my private island for people way in the South Pacific, and I've never been camping. Grandma Goes to the Alaskan Wilderness, 45 miles from the nearest road, where I was a volunteer for the Junior Iditarod, which is a sled dog race for teenagers. And then I just returned from China, Mongolia, Siberia, and Russia.
Very good.
Plus my memoir, the adult version, will be out in November.
All right, well, Jeanne Roppolo, is it?
Roppolo.
Roppolo. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Terry.